Hey guys, in this video series, I'm going to show you how to turn your Losi desert buggy or RC car into a piece of artwork. Hey guys, in this video we're going to be installing a Losi Desert Buggy XLE body wrap. A client sent me these pieces. He needed some help getting them installed. He didn't quite trust himself to do it. And because I was doing a video series, I said yes, I'll do that for you. I upgraded him to the metallic flake. And what we see here are the clear new body panels that he painted on the back side, as you can see. So we have a good clean surface to install the graphics on. Let me go over my tools here real quick. Okay, I have about a quart of water with about 5 big drops of dish detergent, and I put about 3 or 4 tablespoons of alcohol in it. You don't need to put the alcohol in it, but this will help just evaporate the water a little bit more quickly. I have some Pro Bond adhesive promoter. This is something I keep here in the studio in bulk, but what you would want to use if you decide to would be a 3M Primer 94 stick. You can find that on Amazon for about $3. But for in the studio, I like to use this. You really don't need these for RC cars, but I'm going to use them here just to show you in case you choose to use it. I have some scissors, I have an X-Acto knife, I have a felt-tipped squeegee, and I have a good quality lint-free cloth. This one happens to come from Amazon. So, generally, with the RC stuff, the instructions will tell you to install it on a white or black body. This kit happens to be a transition colored kit. We're going from white to black. So the client knowingly painted this all black. If you have the time and the patience and the ability, you could, this is the front of the machine and we go from white to black. You could paint the front white, the front portion of the body panel white and blend it to black, painting it from the back side. He didn't do that, and that's okay. But because this product is so thick, we are going to see, and we can't overlap the product, we are going to see some gaps where this black shows through, where the white part of the kit is. This is going to be great for you guys to see how the black portion of the kit, let me get my sheet here, that's the actual piece here that goes on here. Your eyes will not see the edge of the decals back here where it's black. You're going to start to see it up here where it turns into white because it's black up here. So you can see the fade line is somewhere right in here. So if you were going to do this correctly, you would have painted this area here back here white and then and blend it to black back here to hide this as well as possible. Again, this was the client's decision. This is what he wanted, and that's perfectly okay. And if that's what you want, if you don't want to paint your body, that's fine too. That's just the best recommended practice for the best look in the end. So here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to take my isopropyl alcohol and I'm going to put it on my rag, and I'm just going to go over this body panel. Make sure there's no pieces of hair or lint on there, anything major. Little tip, You can buy these cheese tack cloths at Home Depot, Lowe's, or even Walmart in the paint section. They're just like a tacky cheesecloth. And you can go over these body panels with this and it'll get any leftover dust or lint. Move some of these body panels over here so I have a little bit more room and it's cleaner for you guys to see. Okay, let's spray this again very liberally. And we're going to take our handy dandy X-Acto knife here and we are going to remove the first graphic from the backer. Now you'll see that some of the holes that are die cut in came out with it. That's okay. Here's a little trick. Spray it before you try to get them out, because if they flip over and stick, they'll be a real pain to get off. And with everything sprayed like this, nothing is sticky. There we go. I'm going to lay this on here. And you can see I can float it around like this. And the holes line up. Now, these things have about a 1/16 inch to 1/8 inch gap, depending on shrinkage and manufacturing processes, all the way around the edge. And I'll go over why that is. And I will tell you, from experience, I've had lots of these body panels in my hands over the years. They do not drill the holes in the factory in the same exact spot every time they make these body panels. It's kind of sickening that that's the case, but unfortunately, that is the case. So when you're lining this up, these line up pretty well right here, okay? Now as I get down here, it looks like it's just a little off. You see that? Again, that's a factory issue. I can only cut these holes where I engineer them from the stock body, and again, they move. So we got to do some cheating here. Okay? So if you look here, I've got a good tolerance here. I got a good backspace from the edge, and because I had to cheat this a little bit down here, so I line up with these holes, I'm running a little heavy here. You can see I'm overhanging. I don't really like that, so I'm going to try a different technique here. Because I'm still wet on the back side and I can wet it again, I have as much time as I need to get this where I need to. There's no rush. So I think what my plan is going to be here, since I've put it on there once and I know the game, I'm going to try and get this right on the edge, and if I have to come back, I can just trim that later by hand, and that'll help me cheat this a bit. Okay, this piece here, that looks pretty good. Okay, again, holes from the factory, not always in the same spot every time. Now, when your rivets go on here, that should still cover the hole completely on most RC cars, and it won't be an issue. Okay, let's add a little heat. What this heat is doing is it's just taking the temperature of the wrap up and it's softening it. When you spray this with that cold water, it tends to really stiffen up. Okay? So I'm going to take my felt tip squeegee and just go right down the line like this. Okay? You can see the water coming out. That's got me adhered enough right there now where I can flip it around and start to work the other way. It's not going to move on me now, at least in this area. And you can see I'm still getting water out. Okay. Let's see here. The RC stuff is a little bit harder to install just because the body panels tend to be a bit more flexible than, say, a motocross panel or an ATV panel or something like that. I'm going to take my rag. First I'm going to heat it up again, get it soft. Feels warm to the touch. And I'm going to use my rag to push any residual water out that the squeegee couldn't get. The rag does a better job on these thinner panels because I can put my hand behind it like this and sort of just push it out. Okay? You can see the natural tendency for this slice here has been engineered in so that this can come back around and it lines up. You can see that lines up really nicely there. Okay? Now at this point, the front, you can hear that, is starting to adhere. Let's just give it a little quick spray so we get a nice even lay down. Gonna heat it up. Okay. I'm gonna put my hand behind it just to help support it, and I'm gonna push the water out. Okay. Now, when I heated that up and I pushed it, you can see I'm overhanging right here. And that's normal because we heated it up, and when you heat up a PVC product like this or any plastic product, it's going to stretch. So RC kits aren't engineered to perfection. They're engineered to perfection off of one body kit that we use here to digitize. And by the time it gets to you, there's all kinds of variables that are going to influence how it fits. How the body kit was trimmed at the factory, how the holes were drilled at the factory, how the holes were drilled by you, how much you heated it up and stretched it while you're pushing, to get the water out. Things like that are going to change, and that is why you got to have one of these X-Acto knives around, because that's going to be your best tool to get it perfect in the end. Okay? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to inspect this, and you can see here, hopefully the camera's picking this up, I'm really, really on that edge. Now watch what happens when I take my finger on this edge. See that? See how I can curl that graphic up? Okay? Watch what happens down here when I do the same thing and the graphic is back set. Nothing. I get a lot of emails from people saying, why don't my graphics go right to the edge? Why don't my graphics go right to the edge? Right here's why. So if you see other companies selling sticker kits out there for RC panels, they're using thin automotive wraps that are very flexible, and in order for them to be that flexible, they need to be that thin. And those wraps are going right to the edge. It won't last. So if you want thick, durable graphics for RC bashers, rock crawlers, you have to sacrifice some things, and one of the things is you got to have gaps between the graphics so that it will last and it will bond and it won't come off. So how do we do this? We're going to heat this up. Okay? Make sure it's down. Get my heat gun out of the way here. Very, very easy. And a lot of guys, if you do window tinting, you're probably going to know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to run it right along the edge. Hopefully you can see this. I'm going to use my finger here as a guide, and the blade is just inset just a little bit here, and I'm just going to run right along the edge and make a nice clean cut. Okay? There's a nice straight edge here. Here we go. You don't need to press too hard, and if you don't press hard enough, just come back and do it again. Okay? Now we're going to find out if we pressed hard enough, and we did. It's going to clean this cut up just a little bit here where I started. Okay? Look at that. Now I have a nice clean gap all the way around here. That's actually a little close right there. I could either cut it or I can heat it up because it's still a little damp behind that sticker. And I can use my thumb and cheat it back a little bit while it's warm. Okay? That's the ticket. And you can see I just got about a 30-second out of it. Okay? Same deal with this hole here. Heat it up and heat it up around it. And I can cheat this back. Cheat that back. And I got another 1/16 out of that one. Okay? And you can use that same process for a lot of the different trouble spots on these kits. This is a little bit too far out of range, but I know that there's big rivet caps that go through this hole and will cover almost all of that. When you go to install that, you can either trim around just a little bit here or cut across, and I like to trim around so you maintain that gap on the edge. Okay? So let's go around here. Warm it up. Make sure we're down. Looks like it's pretty well adhered here. Okay. So here's our first trouble spot. And on this one, I'm not going to use my finger. I'm just going to go around blindly like that. Easy peasy. And lift it out. Beautiful. Just put that to the side. This is a little bit longer of a stretch here, so I'm going to use my finger to go around. And I apologize if you can't see this, but I have to hold it at this angle so I have the right look on it. Okay. And we're going to come around like this. And you'll know if it didn't cut deep enough because you won't see. I can't pull that back right there, so it didn't quite go deep enough right there. So just trim that one spot, then you can keep pulling. Beautiful. And here we are. We have a nice back set there, and if my back set's a little heavy on that corner, so I can heat it up some more. And I can get another 1/16 out of it by just giving it a nice little shove like that. And you can see I'm right up back to the edge. And as it cools, just keep it trained to stay up there, and it'll start to grip, and it'll stay there forever. Okay? So, here is our first metallic flake panel on a Losi XLE in Ripper. And we're going to put this to the side. Okay? I'm not going to do the other panel. That's a mirror image of this one on camera because the process is the same. So let's do something like the roof. And get my workstation cleaned up a little bit here. And we'll take our alcohol and we'll put it on our rag and we'll get this prepped up. Okay, we'll let this evaporate just a little bit here. I'll take our cheesecloth, just make sure we don't have any major hairs or lint on there. And we will, of course, spray it down. And then we will come over here to our vinyl sheet and we will get the sticker we need. Problem. Again, I've got one hole that one cutout that remained. I'm not going to try and pull it out. Actually, I have 5 cutouts that remained. Once it's wet, it's easy to handle, and you can pull these out without anything sticking. See that? Just set them to the side, and we're going to put this on here, just like this. And the first thing I want to do is get this warmed up because it's as stiff as a board, being that it's touching that cold water. See what's happening here as I heat this up? This was sticking straight out right here. And as I heat it up, you can probably see on camera, it just starts to fold down. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the middle top dead center set so I have a nice pivot point. Looks like I need to cheat this forward just a little bit. Still have some time to pull that off even though I squeegeed it down. About another 15 to 20 seconds and I would not have been able to pull that off. So I'm going to cheat this forward so that the back here, and again I'm running into manufacturing issues, these things aren't cut out equally every time, the body panels that is, so we have to work with it, heat it up. I'm going to show you how to make up for those differences in body panel manufacturing. I'm going to get this re-adhered somewhere here in the middle, okay? That'll help me do some stretching and some modifying here. Now if we look at the back, they cut this panel thin on this side and probably normal here, or heavy here, and you know, vice versa. So what we're going to do, we have two choices. We can either stretch this a little bit and then trim this, or trim it all the way across and just leave a thicker gap there. I'm going to try and stretch it a little bit and trim the other side. So we're going to heat it up. Okay. I'm going to take my rag, which is going to give me a little bit extra grip than my slippery fingers, and I'm going to attempt to just sort of push this. Probably going to need some more heat here. I'll peel this back just a little bit so I can get another shot at it. Heat it up a little bit from the bottom side. I'm going to pick it up like this and stretch it into place. There you have it. Okay? See that? You can even see the stretch here in my hole. Add a little bit more heat. You can see the water coming out there. And we're going to come back and even that up at a later time. Okay? So we're going to keep going all the way around. To speed up the adhesion process on the sides here, sometimes water will get trapped. So I'm just going to blow the heat in from this angle and just use my thumb like this and work my way right down the side of the hood. Now as I start to lose the heat and this starts to firm up, you'll see it won't, see how it doesn't want to stick down as easy now? See how it's popping back up? So you just come back, heat that up again, start back here, and just keep working your way across. Probably got to heat it up again here. See the moisture stuck in there? Okay. Now, this piece I can already see is going to have a big gap here. So I'm going to grab it, pull it. I'm going to need some more heat to soften it up so I can get some stretch out of it. And I'm going to push it into place. Just like that. Okay. Get that nice bend there. Okay. See if we could pick this up here. Let's get a little bit of water in here so we have some more time to work with this. I'm going to heat this up so I can get a stretch out of it because I can see it's going to be short here. And we're going to pull it forward just like that. Don't worry if it's wavy because we can come back and trim it. Heat it up pretty quick because it wants to contract back, and you need to heat it up and get it bonded so it stays. Okay? Okay, here we go. Some guys say to me, well, why don't you just overcut it so that I go right to the edge and then I'll trim it. I'll tell you guys, that's an okay idea, but you're going to have a ton of trimming to do, and it won't be as smooth as if the computer and the machinery cuts it here in the shop. Okay? Keep this up. And we're going to push it into place like that. some water there that just doesn't want to sort of creep out, so I'm going to dry it out. And you can see I'm bonded now. Okay. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with the gap here. It's just good enough. There's about a 30-second there. If I take my finger, you can see I can't lift it up. I think we'll even this up a little bit here. Yep, that's sticking over the edge, so we're going to trim that back. The front looks good. These gaps here, can be, see I'm tightening them up with my hands. It's still warm, and you can heat that up and push them into place even more if you like. I'll show you. Little heat. Okay. And we're going to creep it up, and they're kissing. Okay. Let's get this side. Some heat. Okay. And we're going to creep them together. Creep them together. Got a little bit of moisture in there, so it's giving me a fit yet. And they're just about there. There, they're kissing. Okay. Little crease there. We'll just have to keep our eye on that. Keep pushing it down with some heat until it cools and it stays. Okay. Little trick, you can hold these together. Just blow on it a little bit to cool it, and as it cools, the bond will really start to set up. Okay. So this all looks good. Let's get this back trimmed, and we'll move on to the next piece. Again, I'm going to use my finger as a guide and add a 1/16 or so. I think that the ticket with this stuff is to just get it evened up. Okay. Looks pretty good. A little off right there. Could probably come back and just try and even it up just a little bit more. There we go. Depends on how picky you are. For some people that would have been good enough. Okay. Now we have a nice even gap back there. Now, if I hold this back from the camera, notice we've got a primarily black background on this hood, and you can't really see those gaps because we decided to paint our body black. If this body was orange, you would see an orange gap all the way around. Not really my thing. I know some people don't care. Personally, I do. I still got a little bit of water in here when I was holding it up to the light, so I'm going to warm it up just a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to try and get that out. There it comes out right there. Okay. Go back here. Do the same thing. See it come out there. Now, when I send this back to the client in the mail, I'm going to let this client know, hey, there could be some water pockets in here yet. No big deal. Take your knife, push a little pretty hard. Just make a little slit in there, and just take this and pop it up just a touch and push the water out. No big deal. One of the great things about these thicker products is when you end up coming back and pushing the water bubbles out, it doesn't leave this unsightly wrinkle in the vinyl like these thin vehicle wraps do. And that's because it's so thick that it just disguises where that water line was. So let's take a look here. I see there's a little bubble right here. I'm just going to get my knife in there and push it out. I'm going to use a little bit of heat to seal up that hole I just made. So that glue will now come through and sort of seal that hole right up. I don't see anything. Looks good from here. Here is the roof. And we're going to take the alcohol, which is still on this, and we're going to prep it up. Just like this. Okay. And it's going to dry off. And we will take our tack cloth and just go over it real quick. Okay. We'll take our solution, just like all the other parts, we'll wet it down. And on this one, let me see, I'm going to need this piece here. Not sure if you guys can see me taking these off the sheet from the camera. basically just lifting it. If there's any piece that doesn't want to completely come out, just use your X-Acto knife and trim it. Okay, I have one hole to pop out here. Get that guy out of the way. And we'll lay this on here. Get oriented. Again, we're floating it, so there's no real problems. Again, here's another factory issue where the hole they offset the hole 1/8 of an inch that way. It could be that they're drilling it wrong, or that the lexan is just curing and shrinking differently. But when I make these and I template these, I test them 2 or 3 times for fitment, and they're always spot on. So the conclusion I've come to over the years is that it's just the lexan bodies and the drilling processes at the factory. Thankfully, vinyl is a malleable product, and we can work with it. So now, I can see I've got 2 ridges here. You see them? 1, 2, okay? Instead of putting this ridge, so we're already starting to bond here a little bit. Instead of putting that ridge in the middle like that and trying to push that down, the better approach, let's get some more water on here. The better approach is to divide that ridge up into 2 separate ridges, like this. Okay? So now we can even that out over here and even this part out over here instead of trying to even out one ridge right in the middle. You'll probably end up with a big crease at that point. Not cool. And you can see these ridges are sitting down on their own with a little bit of heat, okay? So I'm actually going to split it into 3 ridges, 1, 2, 3 for now. And I'm going to set this ridge down and that ridge down. There was ridge number 1. I had split it into 2. Here's ridge number 2. Easy stuff, guys. Got a couple little bubbles in here that I just need to push out. Okay. There we go. Looking at this, I could probably add a little bit more dish detergent to my solution so that that water egresses a bit easier. You start to see that you're getting a lot of bubbles left behind. Go add a little bit more soap. That'll help give it the viscosity it needs to get out of there. Okay. Let's heat it up a little bit. Okay. And we'll do this. Okay, so let's try and get this side down here, and then we'll try and cheat that hole that's been misdrilled from the factory there. Okay, got a nice 1/8 inch clean gap right there. Perfect. On this little tiny piece, I'm going to try and dry apply it. So I'm going to heat up the back, get it all evaporated off, and then I can come down on a piece that small and dry apply. If I was to try to push that water out of that small tiny piece right there, it's a little bit harder for it to adhere, okay? A little bit better to dry apply a little tiny piece like that. I'm gonna go back over it here, make sure everything's down. And the reason I want everything down is because I really want to shove this right here, and I don't want anything else to slide. So go over this. I don't see any major issues. I can tell it's not completely bonded yet, as it shouldn't be. So here's our 2 issues. We have this issue here, and we're just a little hung over right here. So that'll be a trim, and let's try and shove this, and we'll probably have to trim the overflow from that shove. Warm it up. Let's give it a little shove. Okay. And I just cleared that hole. Perfect. This is pretty warm right here yet. I'm going to let that cool before I come back and try and trim it, because when it's warm like that, it doesn't cut as clean. It sort of wants to drag because it's like butter, okay? But you can see I'm now clearing that hole. Not much needs to be trimmed here, if anything. I may just let's take about a 30-second off of there. I'm going to move my heat gun. going to freehand this because it's too flimsy for me to get my thumb on. Don't feel like you have to do the cuts all in one stroke, especially around turns. Do part of it and then come back, so you get a nice clean turn. So we got a nice cut there. Hopefully you guys can see that and my camera is focusing properly. And now I'm going to come back and just get, see how I sort of pulled that there and the vinyl wrinkled on me? It's because it's not completely bonded like I mentioned, so you got to be really careful. I could wait about an hour for it to bond more before I finish this cut, but because I'm doing a video I don't have time. So I'm going to use my finger to sort of give it some support. And there we go. Okay? There is the side panel. Got a little extra there. This piece here is cooled now to the touch. So I'm going to come back. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to find something. The stapler will work. And what I'm going to do is put this rag over the stapler so you guys can see. That should give it the support it needs while I push with the knife. Okay. And there we go. Nice clean cut. Okay guys, we're down to the last piece of this. This is going to be the hood, or as they say over in Europe, I guess, the bonnet. Alcohol, wipe it down. Now one of the things about this hood, and I'm not exactly sure why, this customer drilled some extra holes in this for his rig. I'm assuming that's the case. There are some extra holes drilled in this, and I'm just going to cover them up with the graphic and let the client decide what he wants to do when he gets it in the mail. Now, if the client was here and he said, no, I want to have those holes, you know, through the vinyl, well then we just come in here with our X-Acto knife and we just sort of, you can see this, sort of just trim just like that right around it, okay? Once you do that, if you've got a grommet or some sort of snap down that's going to hold that vinyl down nice and tight, you don't need to do a back cut around these holes, okay? If the hole's just there because you got an antenna coming up through, yeah, you may want to do a little bit of a back cut based on what we talked about earlier with my thumb, you know, pulling up the edge of the graphic. So, with that said, let's get into it. Let's spray this down. There's 3 pieces to this Losi Desert Buggy XLE's hood. Start with the main. This is probably the toughest part to install on this particular model. And what we've got here is we've got a depression right here, okay? And those can be a little bit harder than the average bear. Now that I'm thinking about it, excuse me for wetting that down a little early, why don't we do a tutorial quick on the primer and how it's used. Dry all this up. Okay. Close this. Get this open because I know it's always a bear. Oh, it's going to be easy on me this time. Okay, I'm going to set that there. Now, you won't have this stuff, but what's inside this can is the same product that's inside the 3M Primer 94 sticks, which you can just email me and ask me where to get them or what they look like, but the image of those little guys is shown in a lot of my products. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them anywhere online. They're super cheap, they're good to have. It's a little tiny tube and it's got a glass bottle inside, and you just crack it and the 2 ingredients mix together, and then it sort of comes out like a pen, like a felt tip pen, okay? What I'm gonna do is manually apply it from my bulk container using a swab. Now, this will assume this will discolor your parts, no matter what you're putting it on. It may not do it on this one, or it may. I don't know. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right in through the valley only, just like that. Okay? Flip it over real quick and out. So you can see it did in fact discolor the parts just a little bit. Okay? It's pretty aggressive stuff, folks. Now, I'm going to take my clean rag. That has dried. And I'm just going to go over it like that. Because there were some particulates that sort of came off of my applicator. Okay. Still there. You can see how it discolored it. I'm going to come back. I'm going to spray it down with my soapy water. I'm going to spray this down with my soapy water. Now, you're going to say, why did you put the primer in the valleys? When you put this on here, it's going to lay flat and bridge that valley. When you go to push this down in and you use your heat and it softens up and it gets pushed down in, as soon as it cools, it wants to contract and it's going to want to pop up naturally off that valley. By putting the bond promoter, the adhesive promoter in that valley, it's going to want to hang on even though it's trying to contract and pop up. So, we're going to put this on here and you can see the discoloration, it doesn't matter because this is going to be on here for the life of the bodies. So, and we've got good alignment, thankfully. Thank you, Losi, for making these holes align properly to the first body I manufactured a template off of. Okay? So here's the depression. Okay? So now what we need to think about is, well, how are we going to get this water out of here, right? Well, it's not going to come out this way very easy because of that big ridge. So we're probably going to want to tip this up and push the water out this way, right? So let's get ourselves centered. Looks like all the holes are centered. I'm going to heat it up. Get my cord around the camera. What I'm going to do is heat up those valleys first because I want to see where they are. Right there, right there. Okay. Let's get this outer edge down. Looks like we're probably going to need to pull this forward just a little bit here. Heat it up. I'm going to respray this. I'm going to heat it from the back side so that it doesn't evaporate the water, because what I want to do is I actually want to pull this a little bit here. I got about a 1/4 inch out of that right there, and you can see that I've bonded right there enough that it's holding it, and it's like a drum right there. I mean, it's pretty tight. So let's give it a little bit more heat so it doesn't contract too much on me and try and stretch. Let's just focus on this part right here. Now again, I have not let anything touch that valley in there where we put the primer. And for good reason, because I think once it touches, it's really going to grip and we won't be able to lift it back off. So let's get this nice and warm because we're about to push this in. And make sure you warm it up everywhere, because if you only warm it up right here and you go to push that in, what if it wants to pull and stretch some from up in here? It's hard to tell. So better be safe than sorry and just heat the whole thing up, okay? I'm gonna get my finger in here with my soft cloth and I'm just gonna push down. Okay, I can feel it's still warm. In the minute it's not workable, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna heat it back up. That looks pretty good. I've already can see that I've got an issue here The water does not want to come out right there. So I'm just going to give it a little help here because we're still wet back there. There it is. It just popped out for me. I got a little distortion, so I'm just going to heat this up. I'm going to wet the back again. And I'm going to keep working my way. Now you might say, well, hey, you just lifted that whole thing up. You spent all that time aligning it. Yes, I know. But we aligned everything and got this adhered, so it keeps it from rocking on us. So you notice as soon as I lay this back down, it's right back where we started. So all that work was necessary, okay? And you can do that. You can lift that up. A lot of people like to call that the hinge method. We adhered this, hinged it up, hinged it back down, okay? Taking my soft cloth, I'm gonna work around, and we're gonna go up here, okay. Here's our second valley. Let's get that heated up. And I'm going to flip it like this so the water runs out that way. And I'm going to push down and just sort of rock my finger. Look at that. You can probably see that there now. Okay, I'm going to heat it up some more. Going to continue to push that water out of there. Looking good, looking good. I'm going to creep that up a little bit while it's still wet, so we get a nicer, little bit of a tighter fit up in there. Just like that. I'm going to work the water out that direction from there. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to work the water out this direction. My gap's a little shallow there, so I'm going to warm it up and try and get another 1/16 out of it. Here we go. See it slide up there? Perfect. Slide this over here. Okay. Don't worry so much if you see like a tiny little, it might appear to be a water bubble. You can always come back to them at the end. Try not to get too focused on the small stuff right away. Focus on the bigger picture and then work your way from there. Did a great job with this recess here. Look at that recess. Looking good, looking good. Okay? Now we need to put these side pieces on, okay? And this is where we're gonna see the issue with the white here on the black. As compared to if this bonnet or hood was painted white, you wouldn't see this. One thing to pop out there. Here's that, oh, nope, that is the correct spot there for that hole. Throw that there. Now, I can already tell you that this hole was drilled a little bit south there. Again, not a big deal. We still got clearance in the hole. That one looks pretty good. But this piece is going to require some pretty good heat, okay? Now, just looking at this, if I butt this right up against here, I'm going to have a heavy gap at the bottom. Split the difference, folks. Split the difference. It'll look better. Let's get some heat on here. I got the AC going pretty heavy in here today. It's hot and humid outside, so it's making this vinyl contract on me really fast and be hard to sort of work with. I'm gonna split the difference, and I'm just going by with my thumb. Nothing fancy yet, okay? Nothing fancy. I'm gonna go around here. I'm not gonna worry so much about that hole because there's not much I can do about where they drilled that. Again, the grommet, when they go to install the panel, will cover the whole thing anyway, so it doesn't much matter. I always try to cut these bigger than the holes are because I know that those holes are shifted in the factory and never perfect. Notice I'm just using my thumb to sort of get this intricate piece down. It's just too small to use the squeegee, and it's too cumbersome to try and use the towel. So I'm just going around with my thumb. Now here we have a decision to make. And again, this is the cut of the body. Sometimes they cut these thinner, sometimes they cut these thicker. Okay? Do we want to go down here and leave this big black gap, or should we keep it up here and make it a little bit tighter? I'm going to keep it up high because I think the client, if they wanted to, they could come back and trim the bottom of the body off at that point. So I'm stretching it right around. I'm going to slide that down. I want a nice clean gap around there. Okay. So now I'm pretty well adhered there. And we can see we've got a big gap. Dremel tool and just clean that up down there. And I'm going to tell the client that when I send it to him. Okay. And I think one of the things that makes these look great, even with these gaps, is clean gaps. In other words, they're not wavy, but they're clean, and it looks engineered clean. Again, this gap would be a non-issue if this was painted white like it's supposed to be. But here we are, and maybe this is good because you get to see if you're trying to make a decision. Should I put this over my stock body? Should I shell out the cash and get the clear body and do it right? Well, you're getting to see. That came together really nicely there. I'm happy with that. These tolerances are good enough. I'm happy with those. Couple little ripples right here because it's going over a compound hard curve and it's a really thick product. Okay, and still I can still cheat these together. You see that? I don't really want to. I like keeping that clean gap there. Again, that's personal preference. But like I said, paint this white and you will not see this gap. You will not see this gap. You will not see this gap and have to Dremel this and clean this up. Okay? This right here, finger test, you can see I'm able to pull that back. So we're gonna have to trim. Grab my trusty knife. Okay. This is rigid enough that I'm gonna use my finger as a guide. There you have it. Got a little cleanup to do right there. Depends on how picky you are. Maybe that's good enough for you, but since I have this and I'm doing it for the client, I'm going to try and do my best work for him. Just give it a nice little rounded edge. There you have it, okay? Now, let's come back and do the other side. Clean my workstation up a little bit here. Spray it down. find that piece. Where are you? Here it is. Okay, here's our piece. Spray, remove this other hole right here. And it's the same concept, just a different side with one glitch. And that glitch is we're going to have an overlap up here, and I'm going to go over what to do with that. That overlap is built in intentionally, and although the instructions, you know, they're not going to say, hey, there's going to be an overlap here, here, and here. You're going to know because it's going to be blatant, and those overlaps are designed so you have enough. Having more is better than not having enough if you can't stretch it into the final position. Okay, let's see here. Again, I'm going to pull this around here, and I'm just going to line these up like that. Okay. Hopefully I'm holding this well enough that you guys can see. Just working my thumb around while it's warm and it's starting to cool already, so I'm going to add some more heat. And I'm sort of using a rocking motion with my thumb, and the reason that's good is because you're rocking the water out side to side instead of just pressing down in the middle and hoping you don't trap any air or water. Add some more heat. And we're going to use that rocking method with our thumb. Okay. And I'm going to rock it down. Got a little cleanup work to do up here. Keep it off the edges. See how I pushed it this way to keep it off that edge? That's what you need to do. Now, come back to this front. My advice to you would be to let that cool. I can't because I'm doing a video. What you don't want to do is leave this here, and I'm going to try and show you why. And this is also important for me to show you because I get this question a lot. Why can't you just make these graphics overlap this piece so that there's no gap and I don't have to worry about painting? Here is why. You're driving this thing around in the mud, in the water, in the snow, okay? And it gets up in here. See that little vault in there? Because the product is so thick, water and dirt is going to get up in there and it's going to start to work its way back. That is why we don't overlap these thick graphics. So, if I sent you here to this video to answer that question for you, there you go. Excellent, excellent illustration as to why. I took my knife, I cut right on that edge, and I'm going to try and pull that piece back before it's bonded too much. Don't pull up, pull sideways, little by little, okay? If you pull up, it's going to pull the sticker off the body because you just put the thing on there, okay? Now we have some cleaning up to do. So I'm going to take the heat. Now while it's malleable, I'm going to kiss these two together, just like that, okay? And you can't see hardly where they meet up. Now, if this were all white, you wouldn't see any of this right here, okay? This is worst case scenario, white on black. But because we kept these lines nice and tight and clean, it doesn't look too shabby even though it was painted black on the backside. I'm going to clean up this edge just like I did the other edge. Okay. Quite get that deep enough in the beginning. Okay, there we go. And there we have the hood.